Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the Fitness Education Online podcast. I am super excited because we have a very special guest on the other line this week, a personal friend of mine. Well, I like to think he's a personal friend anyway. I'm not sure if he thinks the same. And someone that has really helped me grow my business at Fitness Education Online. We'll get into the topic a little bit, but he is a heavy hitter. He knows a thing. I consider myself pretty good at digital marketing, but I need to come to this guy for advice. So he's pretty good at what he does. So without further ado, let me introduce the head of business development at SEO Services Australia, the one and only Mr. Marc Bartolome. Marc, how are
Hey,
you?
I'm doing good, Jono. And yes, you could say that. You could definitely claim that that feeling of friendship is mutual.
Oh, awesome. I
Yep,
said that and
yep.
I'm like, I hope he thinks I'm a friend.
Oh, you are. Yeah, you are. Definitely, definitely. Yep.
Awesome. Well, Marc, what I'd like to speak about today is pretty much anything on the Google side of things, from the website to the SEO to the AdWords. Now, a lot of people listening to this, they might even sound like a different language to them. So I think we start from the base up. But even before we do that, do you just want to spend a minute or two and let everyone know what it is you actually do there in your with your services?
Right. Okay. So as I am a self-proclaimed, I guess, is I'm running business development. So I'm the sleaziest salesman in the company. Uh, but yeah, the idea behind what we do and what SEO services stands for is really enabling SMEs to go digital. And my specific role, and I guess what we're going to be doing, unpacking this in today's podcast, is we're going to take a look and explore what you, as whether you're a small time one person operation or you run a gym or anything that's relevant to your particular industry, what could you do in digital to help get that edge in business? My personal background, I've been in digital marketing for 5 years now. Before that, I was in market research, and way before that, I have been a history nerd and all that kinds of jazz. So yeah, I guess this is actually makes us a great combination, Jono, because I'm the stereotypical geek and nerd, and so it's a kind of I feel kind of weird being in a podcast for fitness trainers and gym people, but I think you can reassure our listeners that I'm that yeah, it's all going to be good because I'll supplement your expertise and your background with my expertise and sort of come up with the best digital solution. So I guess for all our listeners out there, the focus of today's conversation will be, okay, let's take a look at what are the common pitfalls or missed opportunities in digital marketing. What are some of the things that you can easily do to get quick wins yourself, and and how, for example, working with experts or getting advice is going to be critical and key to staying ahead of the competition.
Yes, love that. Okay, well, let's just dive in straight away, Marc.
Sure.
I think a good place to start is websites. So a lot of people listening to this, they're going to be in a few different categories, but let's just start from the absolute basics. There could be someone, because in today's society, you're running a small boot camp, small personal training operation, can probably get away without a website. You can have a Facebook group, maybe an Instagram page, but that'll probably only get you so far. So I'm curious to hear your opinions, Marc. At what time do you need a website? And then what are some of the advantages of having a website that you couldn't quite get from, say, an Instagram or a Facebook page?
Right. Okay. I think that the fundamental question really here is that while you do spot people and you do spot brands on social media, when was the last time you bought something off of Facebook or LinkedIn?
Mm,
Right? I'm not gonna state the actual statistics because, to be honest, it gets more lopsided every week and every month. But basically, buyers' journeys typically start with a search, and that search is overwhelmingly Google. You won't really be found on Google search. Your Facebook page won't really be easily found on Google search because they just hate each other that way. But if you have a website and if you have the right keywords, if your brand is particularly prominent on Google search, then that enables you to capture people who are not in the awareness or consideration phase anymore, but rather in the purchase phase. They're closer to actually buying or getting a provider, or a, in this case, a personal trainer, or maybe signing up for a gym. I think the advantage is pretty much night and day. If if you're a personal trainer and somebody searches, for example, personal trainers in North Ride, let's say, so very very localized search. If you have a website, you have an edge over people who just have a Facebook profile, simply because there's more opportunities for you to be found, right? And people Google stuff. People look at Google My Business. They look at at maps. So if they can't see your website, or they can't see your business listing, you're putting yourself really at a disadvantage.
Yes, love that. And I love how you mentioned the stages, because simplified version for the personal trainers listening that aren't amazing at marketing, they're hotter leads on Google. I do
Yeah,
both. I
yeah,
do my own Facebook advertising, and I need to call, I need to, they'll enter their details I got to call them 3 times, I got to send them all these emails. They tell me no. And then maybe 6, 12 months later, they'll end up buying something. Whereas on Google, someone's going to look and buy that thing right now. And
yeah,
Mark does his little thing. You put your phone number on there. They call you. They go to your website. It's just it's hotter leads there. So I think
yeah,
that's important there, and especially if it's a local business where people are actually searching. It's a little
yeah.
bit harder if there's not a search volume and you need to try and surprise people. But I saw the stats the other day, and we won't go into now. But either way, there's a huge amount of traffic for personal trainers near me and gym near me. And
Yeah.
then there's a little bit for the other stuff as well, boot camp near me and,
Right, right.
group class. But personal trainer near me, no matter whereabouts in the world you are, there's people every day searching personal trainer near me. And if
Correct.
you're not getting those phone calls or you're not getting those inquiries, it's your competitor who's got the website that's got them.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
I love
So
it.
yeah, yeah. And I think one other thing we also want to emphasize is that, for example, social media platforms like Facebook and LinkedIn, they're really good at reaching people,
Mm,
because everybody's just there. Like when you're, but when you look at the behavior, I mean, I'm on Facebook while I'm in the lift, right? While I'm waiting for to get to my floor, while I'm on the bus or on the train. It's not when I'm intentionally willing to buy. So it's a
mm,
good place to get found initially, but we have to practice what we call the rule of seven in marketing, meaning you have to be seen 7 times in order for you to be remembered, and hopefully to attract business. So while I think social media is the a logical first step, next level really will be having an established digital presence through a site where you're not competing for attention, because we've all been on Facebook, right? It's always one pop up over the another. Your ex lover is all of a sudden happy, and it's started making you miserable. So lots of things that we can look at, at just sort of capturing and keeping that audience captive. And the website can do that, because you can present a lot more information, you can provide your value proposition, whereas on Facebook it just feels like too long to read on a screen, right? So yeah, that's one of the advantages of doing it.
Okay, next question, Mark. A lot of personal trainers, especially, they'll want to get their presence out there, so they'll go and use a platform like a Wix or a Squarespace, which it's maybe an okay first step. It's probably better than nothing.
Yep.
But there's some limitations to things like Wix and Squarespace, I believe, in terms of getting found on Google. Is that correct?
Yep. Okay. To be fair, Wix and Squarespace in particular have stepped up the SEO compatibility of their site, allowing a bit more flexibility in terms of the design and the code. However, it still has some limitations. I will never say that that your platform is the sole determiner of
Mm,
rankings.
yeah.
Like for example, you can have a WordPress website that ranks just as well as a Wix website, assuming that they're both well built, right? But it's just that platforms, I guess, like WordPress are just so much easier to work with in the long term, and so much easier to maintain. I mean, yeah, Squarespace and Wix definitely something that good to sort of get your feet wet on web design, and it's so simple and easy that you could do it yourself. But that's also a double-edged sword, because when you think about it, anybody else can also set up their Wix and Squarespace website. You can't have the
Mm,
sophistication and advanced features. It's also harder to do more profound changes. Like if you want to customize pages, you want to add additional functionalities. It's not necessarily viable. And the beauty with WordPress, I guess, is, well, a lot of websites on the internet are built on it. Upwards of 70% of websites online right now are built on WordPress. So that means that if ever you get stuck on a WordPress website on something you can't change, you throw a rock, you'll hit a WordPress developer. Whereas with Wix and Squarespace, you have to do the forums. It's a bit more specialized than that, and most of the time you end up having to work with a PHP guy who really good at what they do, but it's all custom code. It's also very hard to understand yourself. Okay, so I think platforms like Wix, Squarespace, they're really good entry points because they're easy to set up. But in terms of big modifications, long-term changes, it's just not as flexible as we would want it to. Whereas on WordPress, you could have stuff like page builders where you get the same simplicity and ease of build and maintenance. You know this yourself, Johnny. You build and maintain your own website. So it's easier for you to actually work on it long term and add additional features. Plus, the mere fact it's so popular, it's so well supported, right? So it's easy for you to get assistance from a freelancer developer, or you could learn it yourself because there's just so many resources out there.
Question with that, Mark. With your company, SEO services, if somebody came to you with a Wix or Squarespace website, do you work with them, or is it like, hey, step one is get on WordPress?
Okay. We never really just outright say that you switch to WordPress. We typically look at the back end of the website first. Although overwhelmingly, I think maybe 60 to 70% of the time when we get a website on those platforms, or even any other platform that's not really popular, um, we often recommend a website rebuild because, for example, in some cases the template is so rigid, because it's easy, it's supposed to be easy to use, so that means that the template is really just fixed with certain sections. I want to add a section, I can't do that easily. I'll risk breaking the site. So that's when we tell you, okay, we can probably do the SEO now, but we'll have to log in some extra hours to
Mm.
work around your platform, and so it'll end up costing you a bit more now to do it, and every time we need to make changes, it'll cost you a little bit. Whereas if we build it on WordPress, you take a little bit of a larger investment. Well, actually, in the big scheme of things, it won't really matter, but a larger investment up front. But moving forward, you can make the changes easily. We can make the changes in 15 minutes. And so it doesn't really, it won't really charge you anymore. So I think a good analogy would be, it's like when you're setting up for I guess for a house, and you're buying a house, and then there's just very limited space. It's about having the right foundation, because, for example, if you don't have the right foundation, if you want to add an extra floor or an extra balcony somewhere, you can't really do it without upending the whole house, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
So if you build it on a platform, and when you think with the future in mind, you think not just now, but rather 2 years, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, it's something that's supposed to be easy for you to maintain yourself, even with or without anybody helping you. And that's the main draw for building it on a popular platform. But yeah, if for example we can work with the Wix platform and with Squarespace, because we have found that they have become more and more pliable over the years, sure, right? But there's always risks that you'll run into a roadblock and it'll end up costing you more.
Yes, makes sense. Okay, next question from there, Mark. And this is one I hear from a lot of personal trainers. They'll be like, hey, Jono, I've got a website. It's awesome. It looks beautiful, but it doesn't get any traffic, or I don't get any leads from it. What do you say there? Is that common, where people will have a really nice looking website, but no one's going to it? Do you see
Yeah,
that a lot? And how do we fix that?
yeah. You fix that by calling our number to 1104848. But yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's a common thing, right? And this is actually pretty common for guys who build websites themselves. Okay, because let's face it, right? I'm not a personal trainer. I don't run a
Mm.
gym, and apart from having a pull-up bar, which I now use as a clothes hanger, I'm not really the kind of guy who's an expert in personal fitness. But I know my SEO. I know what Google likes. I know what content is supposed to look like. And I know how the website is supposed to look like. So we do the inverse, right? So most guys who build a website on their own, they input it with content that they think will work. And for the most part, it does, right? It's an expression of what their business is and what their value propositions are. But without the advice, without the right, I guess, the right direction or guidance to do it, it's a pitfall. It's a common pitfall because yeah, you can have a nice fancy website paying monthly fees on hosting and domain names, but at the end of the day, if you're not getting any traffic, it's just a nice pretty website. We often have a joke in the industry that if you want to hide a dead body, you put it on page 2 of Google, right? Because yeah, if you're not visible on Google search, then you might as well not be there. So
Mm.
yeah, you I think that when you build the website, it goes back to that thinking, that mindset we're in. You really look at the website and digital marketing as an integral part of your business. It really will be the source lead at the core lead generator. um you know who the best salesperson and best marketer in SEO services is, Jono?
I've got an idea.
What's your idea? Who's your idea?
Is it your website?
Very good. See, that's why we're friends. You get me. But yeah, look, I'd like to think I'm pretty good at what I do, and they're also much more competent and sleazier salesmen in the team. But I'm only human, right? I work at an agency, so I don't sleep. But when you think about it, right, like a human being can only be on the phone or can only
Mm,
be doing audits, and there's a limitation to what they can do. But our website is live 24/7.
mm.
The information is there. It'll capture leads there. You could run an audit there. Imagine if you're a personal trainer and that's how you're found, right? I mean, as a personal trainer, sure, you'd love the phone ringing off the hook, but frankly, even if that's the case, I mean, you can't really take a
Mm,
sales call while helping somebody doing push-ups, right?
mm.
So the idea here is that if you have a website, this is your best salesperson. This is your best marketer. And so getting the right advice on what content should look like, how I should make sure that the content I put and the website is structured in a way that it will rank is going to go a long way. So when you're investing on the website, it's like you're hiring someone, right? You're paying for that person's training. You're getting that person up to speed on how they can reach as many people as possible. That's how you should view it. And so if you build a site without any advice, without any understanding of how it's going to work, it's like you're getting an unskilled laborer
Mm,
to do, I don't know, to land a rover on Mars,
mm.
right? I mean, I wouldn't say it's rocket science, but it's still better to set yourself up for success by making sure you do it right the first time.
Yes, and I'll piggyback on that a little bit. I think as personal trainers, we're never going to be SEO experts. Even myself, I'm pretty handy at digital marketing. I don't know how to do the stuff that Mark does. I just tell him a
Mhm.
bunch of words. I'm like, hey, Mark, here are the words that we need to, rank up the top for. Can you
Yeah,
do whatever you do in the back end and make sure you rank up the top? Because
right.
even if we simplify SEO to the way I understand it, there's basically on page and off
Yep.
page.
Yep.
So with the on page stuff, that's something where like, Mark makes sure the headings are correct and
Right.
the text have all the keywords in the right places and
Yep.
there's a few blogs and that sort of stuff. But then there's also off page, which is
Yeah.
where, to my understanding, Mark, one of the most powerful things for SEO is if you can have other websites linking to your
Right.
website. And
Right.
that's hard to do. If you're one person, how are you going to get all these websites to link with you? But if you've got a company
Yeah.
like Mark's, they've got connections, they know other people, and they've got a way around it there. Would you agree with that, Mark?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I guess one thing that we want to debunk is that SEO is not, well, it's complex, but it's not, it's not rocket science.
Mm.
But at the same time, it's also not a one person job.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
for example, behind me is like 200 people who yeah, as I said before, like 200 people between SEO experts, content writers, editors, social media guys, Google ads guys, and sleazy salesmen, right? But it's not a one person operation because, as you said, somebody has to reach out to websites to go do the
Mm.
backlink. Somebody has to keep an eye on your website. You need a developer who can code the website in such a way that it looks good on an iPhone, for example.
Mm.
There are different things that you need to do, but somebody needs to pay attention to your Google Analytics, tracking how much traffic you're getting. Of all the traffic you're getting, how much are inquiries? Of all the inquiries, how many are good inquiries? It's a full-time job,
Mm.
basically. Um, all I'm saying is that I guess there are some things you can do and you can achieve some degree of limited success. It's not impossible to do on
Mm.
your own. It's just that if you want to get ahead of the competition, if you want to get that edge, it really takes a bit more effort. And in some cases, yeah, you really will need to enlist the help of other people. On page, for example, there are lots of things you can do immediately to help you get rankings. That's for one, identifying what keywords to put, right? And as I said, building the right website with the right platform. But off page, you have to outreach to health and wellness magazines and publications, get them to link back to you. I guess for the benefit of the viewers who just don't know what off page is, because yeah, on page refers to the website. Everything in the website, that's on page. You have to be high quality in order to rank. Off page refers to all of the trust building signals that Google looks at. Basically, a high quality website would be referenced by others. Think
Mm.
Wikipedia, right? When you look at the
Mm.
Wikipedia page, it has so many reference links linking back to journals and all of those scholarly articles. Same thing that Google sees with your site. If your website's being mentioned by other websites that are also in the same industry, that builds trust. That tells Google that, hey, between website A and website B, they're both quality, they're both good, but website B just has more vouchers, so I'll rank website B further, right? I guess the most simplest way I could describe it is, and I think I told you this joke in one of our sessions. Um, when your mom tells you that you're smart, right? That's one vouch. That's great. When your mom tells you 100 times that you're smart, that's great. But that's still just one person, and that's your mom. So she loves you and everything, right? But if we get like 100 unique people say that you're great, right, and one of them is a member of parliament, or in this case for personal trainers, I don't know, happy customers, or for example, lifestyle or fitness magazines, health magazines. This is an enormous boost to popularity. So when you're looking at ranking a site on Google, it's not just having a pretty and optimized site. You also have to be popular too. Just like in real life, right?
Yes, true.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. That all makes sense there. And I'll also just mention my opinion with if you want SEO, just go and speak to Mark. He's got a special on as well. He's giving anyone on this podcast or the first few people to inquire a bit of a discount. I'll put that link down in the show notes, Mark. And if anyone's interested, they can hit that link in the show notes.
Yeah, yeah. So we're all listeners of the podcast, yeah, because yeah, part of our mandate really is to help and emerging and small business owners to really just take off. And we understand that the cost is a barrier to entry for some. We're offering a for the first 10 people who will inquire through that link. We're offering a $200 discount off of any monthly fees we have on SEO for a year. So that's a total of $2,400 in a year in savings. Um, and yeah, that all you need to do really is just sign up for a conversation with me. All the conversations with me are obligation free, but Jono knows that few of them walk away with just a conversation. But yeah, but what we want to do here is give you advice. Like, do you have a website? Okay, you don't. This is how it should look like. This is what you're missing out. Because I think you at least, our listeners out there, you should at least know what you are missing, what your
Mm.
competition is doing, so that you could at least see the potential. And the advice we're going to give you in that free that free 30-minute to 1 hour assessment is more of just taking a look at, okay, what can you do given the time and resources you can allocate to this,
Mm.
right? Like I never want to say that digital marketing is expensive
Mm.
or complicated. We're the type of partner who can work around your budget, and advice is always free, right? Advice is always free. We'll only really we'll only really charge you for anything if we're actually doing the work. But if, for example, if we give you that clinic, that free assessment, we'll tell you what the things you're missing out on, what you need to do, whether you have a website or not, and then yeah, you can take it from there.
Yes. So
So yeah,
I recommend at least getting that consult. We'll put the link down
correct.
below. Worst case scenario, you get some good advice. Best case scenario, you get a good deal and you get SEO. And I know Mark's prices, and probably not even one client. I feel if you get one client as a result of Mark's services, you're probably paid for the month anyway. So it's worth the investment there.
Pretty
But I just want
much.
to go a little bit deeper on SEO as well, because there's one thing that, and this is where I think it's important, where the business owner should outsource the SEO, but they should also have an ID themselves of their customer, and there should be a
Right.
bit of collaboration. Because when
Yeah,
I first did SEO, I had some nightmare experiences, Mark. I'm not sure if I told you about some of these, but
you
I'll never
did.
forget the first time I did SEO. They were like, right, Jono, send us over 10 keywords that your ideal customers are going to search, and we'll optimize the website for you. I'm like, great. I just came up with 10 keywords, sent it over to them. They'd send me a report every month. They're like, look, Jono, you're coming, third at all these words here. That's really, really good. I'm like, oh, awesome. That's good. And then I got a little bit more savvy and I realized that I could see how much traffic each word was bringing in. And then for half of those words, so out of the 10 words I gave them, five of them actually weren't bringing in any traffic. So I was
Yeah.
ranked number one in Google. That's great. But if there's no traffic going there, it means nothing. So that's another
Yeah.
important thing, is I think that's a collaboration side of things. I think you as the business owner, you should come up with a list of words that you think your people are searching, and then, pass them over to the SEO team. They will do some analysis and they'll be like, hey, Jono, out of these 10 words or how many words it is, these five are good. These five don't have much traction. We recommend these five from terms of traffic. What do you think?
Right.
And then the
Yeah.
business
Yeah.
owner will look at it and be like, "Ooh, but Mark, you want me to type in CrossFit? I don't do CrossFit. Can we do boxercise or whatever it may be?" So I
Right.
think it's the collaboration side there. Any thoughts on that, Mark?
Yeah, yeah. Look, it's the same thing I mentioned earlier. I don't run a gym. I don't do personal fitness. And neither do our team of writers. Well, some of them probably are into gym buffs themselves. But at the end of the day, it's your business. It's your
Mm,
customers. So the way we work with our clients is that and I think this is the way anybody, any
mm,
agency or anyone should be working with their clients. It's kind of like with physical fitness, right? You
mm,
don't really have a cookie cutter program that applies to everyone.
mm,
You
mm,
want to address what they need now. Like you can't make them run if they're if they're weak, their knees are weak, because you'll just end up injuring them. So it's all about building that initial strength first. Same thing with doing SEO. It's all about us understanding, okay, we get your input. We get the input of the business owner first, because at the end of the day, it's your business.
mm,
What keywords do you think are important to the business? What do your customers search for, and what do they care about? We also take a look at, okay, let's analyze your revenue. All of the
mm,
customers you have right now, all of the clients that you've signed on, what did they do with you? Like, I mean, there are different aspects to physical fitness. There are different programs you could run. What's the majority that you run? Because that's probably the niche that we could capitalize on, right? We also take a look at, okay, what about all of the other personal fitness trainers or gyms in the area? What do they do? What are they ranking for? Do they have websites? So these are the kinds of things that we look at, because if they're doing a little bit of digital marketing for that, for example, even if they're running Google ads, that just tells me that they're getting some return, right? They deemed it appropriate to invest in that because there's demand for it. And that's how we come up with it, right? We start with input from the business owner, and then we add a little bit of research based off of what we find. But at the end of the day, that keyword list, or what we choose to optimize for at any given moment, that's something that we have to agree and work on together, right? And next step basically is, if we're going to make changes on the website, it's still your website. So we can't really make changes without you being happy about it, right? We want to make sure that we don't mention anything in the content that's inappropriate, or we can't make any claims that we can't actually do. And I think that in your particular industry, Jono, certifications I think are very relevant.
Mm.
So these are some of the things that we typically consider. But it's a close collaboration, and
Mm.
any great I guess, and any great partnership, and I call it a partnership rather than just a, client agency relationship, because at the end of the day, if your provider, if your agency, if your consultant does good for you, you'll keep working with them
Mm.
because they just keep getting you that business, right? And so the collaboration doesn't just stop with keyword research and results. It also involves sales. Like, let's say I built you a website. I get you 100 inquiries in a month. Sounds awesome, right? Well, what if 96 of those 100 inquiries were actually time wasters?
Mm.
We won't really know that unless you talk to the guy who's working on it, right? So that's where it's really it's more of it's more of like you hired a person to manage your marketing for you.
Mm.
But instead of just getting one person, if you get an agency and you outsource it to an agency, you get 200 people, right? And that's the value of doing it. So yeah, one thing that I guess is dodgy is that you're right in your experience that long tail keywords that don't have search volume, I can rank for those in a week,
Mm.
right? I put a little bit of content and there you're ranking because there's no competition for that
Mm.
particular set of keywords, right? But if we take a look at the keywords that really matter, the ones that have volume, or not necessarily volume, but the ones with high intent,
Mm.
the ones that people
'Cause
who want to
there's a
buy.
difference between how do I lose weight and I want a personal trainer, you know?
Exactly
Yeah.
right. I mean, how to lose weight, that's what I Google every night before I go to sleep to make me feel better about myself. But but the actual searches for get a personal trainer, that's infinitely more valuable to a personal trainer,
Mm.
because if you rank for that, well, guess what? Guess who the people you're going to find, right? These
Mm.
are people who already have the willpower. They've made it. Have semi made the decision. They're just really looking for somebody who can help them out.
Mm. It's
Okay.
almost yours to stuff up, right?
Yeah, exactly.
If
So,
they've searched personal trainer in Sydney and you're the first one that comes up and you're, or say North Ryde, let's be more specific, they
right.
type personal trainer North Ryde and you pop up number one, personal trainer North Ryde, it's your sale to lose.
Exactly, right? Because you're up front, you're there, you're number one, right? And if you weren't there, well, you just missed that. Somebody else would be, okay?
Yes.
Because that's the future of marketing. It's great. I mean, yeah, I think for the personal trainer industry, and for gyms in particular, it's all about networking
Mm.
and getting, the brand out there. But at the end of the day, people who want to buy, they Google,
Mm.
right? It's important to get seen initially on social, and maybe you could also potentially get some leads there, because there is lead generation in social media as well.
Mm.
But it's all about that rule of seven again. You want to be visible for as many channels as possible, and you want to have the right platforms for people at different stages of their buyer's journey.
Yes, and they almost come together in some ways as well, where it's like, say someone Googles you, great, they go to your website. They may, even if they don't buy then and there, if you're also savvy with social media, great, you've got a Facebook pixel on the website,
Yeah.
and then you can retarget that person because we know what it's like. They might have searched it and they've seen three different personal trainers or they've seen three different gyms, and they've gone to think about it, and they've forgotten all three of them, but then the next day, your ad pops up on social media. They're like, oh, that was one of the gyms I was checking out. Oh, there's a free trial or free consultation or whatever it is. You know what? I'll click and I'll do that one there, and then you're in. So I think they work together. Whereas if you
Yeah.
just gone straight from social media, it's a little bit harder. Uh,
Yeah.
but hey, I'd like to transition a little bit now, Mark, to actually let's spend one more quick point on SEO, then we'll transition to
Sure.
Google Ads. Yeah, because I like what you said, Mark, how it's obviously you want words that have got volume, but also specific buying words as well, because that's going to
Correct.
get the better customers. And I think another point on that as well is, if possible, ones with low competition. Now, it's probably pretty, I'm not going to say easy, but it's probably easier if you're in a local business because there's only so many personal trainers in Cogra. There's only so many
Yeah.
gyms in Cogra. So there's probably a limited base. So it's probably a little bit easier. But still, that you may be able to get smarter and be like, well, hold on, there's 10 gyms in Cogra, and they've all got really high SEO for gym in Cogra. but maybe I can go slightly different, and there might be words with a little bit less volume, but way less competition. So I can target that. That's another way to sort of get your way around it a little bit if there's some heavy hitters in your area with those keywords, right?
Right, right, exactly. I think the good example here is, let's say, for example, there's a keyword that has 500 searches a month.
Yep.
Sounds
Say
awesome, right?
gym.
Because if you're
Yep.
ranking for that, you potentially get the lion's share of that 500 searches. Problem is, you won't rank for a year, maybe two,
Mm,
depending on how cutthroat the competition is, right?
yep.
So in the meantime, while we're investing so much time and effort trying to rank you for that, you're not getting any traffic because you're not in page one. But as you mentioned, if we take a look at some keywords that might be variables,
Maybe gym
less,
versus gym class. Would that be
yeah,
a
yeah,
good
something
example?
like that. Yeah, a bit longer tail. It's a bit more specific. There's
Mm,
still search volume, but it's significantly less. We can rank for that faster. We can rank for that depending on how easy it is. It could be as quickly as a month or maybe even 90 days. And in 90 days, you're going to get traffic for that search.
mm,
And there are people searching for that. So when you're identifying what keywords to target, what the strategy should be, it should always be a mix,
mm,
right? You take a look at, okay, what are the heavy hitting keywords that if I rank for, I'm set for life, right?
mm,
We pay attention to that. We make sure that we don't forget about those, but that doesn't mean that we don't neglect the lower hanging fruit, because that is what's going to sustain the business, keep the leads coming in until such time where you get to the ideal state,
mm.
right? So that's how the strategy should look like.
Love it. Okay, let's transition to Google Ads, Mark.
Sure.
So I'm a big fan of Google Ads myself because I find it's quicker and you can get some immediate feedback. SEO is a bit of a longer game, right? As you mentioned, it may take 30 to 90 days to maybe a year or two, depending on how competitive. But Google
Correct.
Ads, we can sort of skip the queue, right? And get to the top straight away. What can
Yeah.
you tell us about Google Ads, Mark?
Okay. uh the best way to differentiate between the two is simple. With SEO, you never pay for a click, right? It's organic. It's not an ad, so you earn that spot, you earn that position, you get clicks there, great. That's, you don't have to pay Google at all. Challenge though is it takes a while to get there, right? And it you also need to maintain it. You also need to take a look at keeping up with competition, because if your competition is also doing SEO, then you need to revisit it from time to time. But it general, once you get there, it's hard to dislodge you, right? Barring your website getting shut down for 2 weeks for whatever reason, you're probably going to stay there, right? Um, with Google Ads, you're right. You can rank tomorrow. You're at the top of search tomorrow, but at what cost, right? Because you
Mm,
have to pay for each click. Now, there, that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, because um, as we say with Google Ads, it's really the performance platform. It's a channel where we focus really on traffic now, leads now, and then we optimize.
mm,
Um, End of the day, when you look at Google Ads, it's a good way to supercharge the traffic coming to the website. And we actually recommend doing Google Ads if you can, on new websites as well.
mm,
The main reason behind it is, if you get that traffic, it'll give you an understanding of how that traffic behaves on your
mm.
site, and gives you information on how to optimize it. And a good byproduct of that, of course, is you also get leads. Okay, so that's the same thing with SEO. Actually, it shares a lot of methodology with SEO, because similar to SEO, you have to identify keywords,
Mm,
right? You have to take a look at what keywords are worth targeting, based off of how much each keyword costs per click, what's likely getting you the conversions. And just like with SEO, you also have to make sure that you drive 100 people to a landing page, that landing page better be ready to get that traffic. They better be ready to capture those leads. So it also takes a look at on-page elements as well. Um, Google Ads, when done in conjunction to SEO, is very powerful,
mm,
because you mentioned Facebook remarketing a while ago, and yeah, that's a good supplement. But Google also has remarketing and retargeting via display ads and the like, right? So, what you're able to do with Google Ads is that supercharge the traffic coming into the website as your SEO builds up the organic traffic.
mm,
As time passes by and you're building that organic traffic, you'll start to see that organic traffic is going up month on month, to the point where it's now maybe the majority share of visits. We can then take a look at the Google Ads. Should we tone it down because we could afford to lose a bit of traffic, or Should we reinvest that money into another channel or into another marketing activity, like perhaps maybe ramp up social media remarketing or introduce Google remarketing? Because, for example, you get 100 visitors to your website, only two of them inquire. You bet that 98, we're going to target them with banners.
Mm.
So yeah, and Google Ads is also fairly simple, and actually it's easy to do. Google encourages that people to try it. They
Mm.
usually give vouchers, and you could try the ads. But it's like SEO in that it's like building a website in that if you go in it uninitiated, it's going to cost you a lot of money because you can bet that Google would want that ad revenue so that they maximize their campaigns for clicks and for traffic. And they don't really, they love that you get the leads, but they don't necessarily care, right? To them, it's all about you getting that visibility.
Yes, I'm. Let me think of where to piggyback there. So a few really good points. And the other, just to piggyback off doing Google Ads and SEO at the same time. Why I like it is you get to see your keywords pretty quick. Because on
Yeah,
Google Ads, it's like, all right, I'm going to target these 10 ads, these 10 words as an example. Okay, these five are getting a lot of traffic. These five aren't. Okay, when I tell Mark my SEO words, I'm going to say, hey, only use these five. Take these five out of it,
yeah,
or put less
yeah,
there. But also what I found personally, and I read this, I don't know if this is a rumor but it's definitely true with me, where if someone does a Google search and you appear multiple times, let's say your website appears in the Google Ads section up the top,
yes,
and then it also appears in maybe the Google My Business section where it's the map,
the map.
and then it also appears organically. Firstly, it's just math. There's 15 different things that come up. If you're in 3 out of the 15, you've got a better chance of clicking you. But I feel or not even like, I feel there's more trust there. If someone goes to Google and your website is listed there 3 times, they're going to trust you more. They're going to be like, well,
Yeah,
this guy's every second thing, so I'm going to click there. So do you find that in your experience, Mark?
yeah, we find the same experience running it for ourselves and also running it for our clients. Basically, it's real estate, right? If you
Mm.
capture multiple plots in that street, then you're more likely to get the customers. And yeah, one thing that I guess I need to point out with how Google Ads have evolved over the years, they're starting to look less and less like ads. They're
Okay.
starting to look more and more like the organic searches. In fact,
Mm.
if you do a quick Google search now for running shoes, for example, you'll
Mm.
see that some of the ads right there, they still mention ad, but it's so small.
Yeah.
And on mobile, for example, more people actually click ads than they do
Oh.
organic because nobody wants to scroll down,
Mm.
right? So there is still benefit to doing Google Ads, and it's actually a great platform to start with if you don't
Mm.
have the traffic, simply because you're there. And yeah, um, basically investing in Google Ads and doing organic rankings, doing social media, having a multi-channel approach to marketing just makes your reach much more. And I would even say it's greater than the sum of its parts,
Mm.
right?
Yeah, 100%.
Because they can help each other, right? Your Google Ads will drive traffic, which can either convert to a customer, or they can become marketing qualified leads that you could then remarket to down the track. But all that traffic information then informs your SEO.
Yes.
Like,
And
hey,
and
yeah, we got an influx of traffic here, but it didn't convert. Something's wrong with this page. Let's tweak it, right? Whereas in SEO, you really don't know that until you get that amount of traffic. So you find out 6 months in. Okay, so there's some benefit to doing both. Um, and yeah, there are instances where, not just one actually, there are instances before where we've had clients that rank. Oh yeah, they're on the ad, they're on the map, but they also have two organic positions
one
for a
might be a
particular
blog,
keyword.
you know?
Yeah, it could be a blog because they're just that blog is just really good.
Mm.
Then the website, then the actual page itself that you want to link to, it's there. So yeah, it's, guys, I guess, to all the listeners, it's really just a matter of how much you want to be seen,
Mm.
right? And a lot of it isn't really, a lot of it might feel like intimidating because it sounds like it's a lot of work, a lot of money involved. But no,
Mm.
if we find the right niche, right? As you
Mm.
said, Jono, right? We don't have to compete with, with keywords that get 20,000
Mm.
searches a month.
Mm.
We can pick the battles that you can win easily, have a modest investment, but do it right. and then you can get much more effective.
And then
I
even
get
well, let's put in perspective, Mark. Even an average, because someone might be thinking, oh, they've got no idea. What does a click cost, give or take? If you just had to guess, not a super competitive, an average sort of click, what would a? And actually, let's go back a step there. If you're doing
mm,
Google Ads,
yeah.
you only pay if the person clicks. A lot of the listeners might not know that.
Yeah,
So
exactly,
it
exactly.
costs if you let's just assume you did it yourself. I would still recommend going with an agency, but let's just say you set it up
Hmm.
yourself. It costs nothing to set up a Google ad account. It costs nothing to set up an ad. It costs nothing for Google to show your ad to people when they search
Yeah,
it. You'll
yeah.
only get charged if they click. And what would you say if you had to throw out a number, Mark? What's an average cost per click with Google?
Well, it depends on the keyword. Actually, it can vary wildly. But yeah, for example, for personal trainers near me, we could range depending on the time of day, depending on the search. It could be as much as $8 to 20. I've seen a couple in very competitive cities, for
Yeah.
example, like Sydney and Melbourne, that it can go as high as that. But here's the thing: sure, $20 per click sounds like a lot of money, but think about how much a client pays you in a
Mhm.
year, right?
Or
Uh,
even it's
y-
probably a $500 initial assess payment. You know?
yeah, exactly. So think of, I guess this is how you frame it, and this is why it's important to work with somebody who really dives into your business and understands your business model. When we work with our clients, we don't just consider their budget. We also take a look at, okay, how much is a client worth to you in a year, right?
Mm.
And how much is it worth to you in a lifetime? Because sure, yeah, you might spend a lot of money to get that guy or girl up front, but they pay for themselves 6 months down the track, right? So you make an initial investment now to get that business, you maintain that relationship, and you earn that money back and get all the gravy later on.
Mm.
But that's how it should work. Like with Google Ads, I'm never going to say that I get you 100 clicks, you're going to get 100 customers. No,
Yeah.
because if we could do that, we would be selling it for much
Yeah.
more, and we're selling it now. But the idea behind it is that there will always be people who just click for information,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? What matters here is that your cost per lead, your cost per acquisition, your cost per customer makes sense.
Yeah.
You're not
Mhm.
overspending, or it makes sense in the long term or even in the short term, rather than us just throwing money and hoping we get something. Okay, because you could do that on your own. The challenge though is that nobody's optimizing it, right? Nobody's analyzing the ads and changing it week on week, month on month. Nobody's taking a look at the landing page and saying, that's bad, let's change it, because nobody's paying attention. And that's why I'm saying, yeah, when you're doing digital marketing, it is a full-time job,
Mm.
right? And it's best to have somebody help you out, because it's going to save you money in the long run.
Yes, and even I know we're a bit short on time, so I'll just finish off with this. Then I'll leave you to it, Mark.
Sure.
My take, special, definitely with SEO, I'm always going to have someone else do it for me. There's no
Yep.
time for me to do that. With Google Ads, my recommendation is at least get someone to set it up for you,
Yeah.
even if it's just for a month or two. You know, you can say, because it's just even just putting in the keywords and setting up the ad is a pain in the ass. You know, it's almost
Yeah.
worth paying the agency fee just to be like, hey, just set it up in a structure that works. And then once they've got it set it up, then you can sort of sit back a bit. You know, providing the
Yeah.
keywords are working, the landing pages are working, you may be able to say, all right, you know what, I'm good on my own, but thank you for setting up. But at least at the start, get someone
Yeah.
to set it up for you. But
Yeah.
anyway, I know we're a bit short on time, so we'll leave it there, Mark. Just a bit of a refresher. We'll put a link below if someone wants to have a chat to you, and that can be whether it's website, SEO, Google Ads. They can just go down that link and have the chat.
Yeah, exactly. We'll put a link in the description. Reach out to us for basically a free digital marketing consult, and whether you have a website or not, you're a gym owner or a personal trainer, and you just need more clients. Let's take a look, see what we can do. I promise I won't sell you anything yet, but we'll give you advice, like what you should do, best practices, things you can do. And the first 10 people to sign up will get a $200 discount on their monthly fees for a year, right?
Can I still sign
So
up for that, or?
no, I already got you hooked in, so it's too late for you.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
Mark, thank you very much for your time. And for everyone listening, I recommend click the link below, have a chat to Mark, and go from there. Thank you,
Cool,
Mark.
cool. Yeah, thank you as well, Jono, and thank you everyone for listening. We'll talk to you again soon.